The Sigma covert narcissist dynamic isn't a battle, it's an exposure. Covert narcissists operate in shadows, presenting themselves as victims while controlling everyone around them. They've weaponized vulnerability. Then enters the Sigma male. Someone who exists outside traditional hierarchies, requires no validation, and detects inauthenticity instantly. The Sigma destroys them through absence of validation, guilt, and participation in their drama. 1. The personality type that crumbles under Sigma pressure. Here's something most people won't tell you about being a Sigma male. You don't just navigate the world differently, you fundamentally disrupt certain personality types without even trying. While alphas clash head-on and betas accommodate endlessly, sigmas possess a unique ability to completely dismantle one specific personality archetype, not through aggression, not through manipulation, but through the sheer force of authentic independence that exposes their carefully constructed facades. The personality type I'm talking about? The covert narcissist. This isn't about casual incompatibility or different communication styles. This is about a fundamental collision between someone who needs constant validation to exist and someone who operates entirely outside that validation economy. The covert narcissist, also known as the vulnerable narcissist, thrives on subtle control, victimhood narratives, and emotional manipulation. They've built entire kingdoms on the foundation of other people's attention and sympathy. Then a Sigma male walks into their world, and those kingdoms start showing cracks. Why does this happen? Because Sigma males are virtually immune to the three primary weapons in the covert narcissist's arsenal: guilt trips, emotional blackmail, and the desperate need to be needed. When you don't require external validation, when you're comfortable walking away from any situation that doesn't serve you, when you see manipulation tactics as transparent rather than compelling, you become kryptonite to someone whose entire existence depends on these control mechanisms. The covert narcissist has spent years perfecting the art of playing the victim while simultaneously controlling everyone around them. They've mastered the delicate balance of seeming helpless while pulling strings. They know exactly how to make you feel responsible for their emotions, guilty for their disappointments, and obligated to their endless needs. This works beautifully on most personality types. Empaths absorb their pain. Alphas try to fix them. Betas sacrifice themselves to keep the peace. But Sigmas see the pattern immediately and feel absolutely no compulsion to participate. This dynamic creates a fascinating psychological battleground. The covert narcissist cannot comprehend someone who genuinely doesn't need their approval. They interpret the Sigma's independence as a challenge rather than understanding it as simple authenticity. They escalate their manipulation tactics, which only makes the Sigma more distant. They play the victim harder, which the Sigma recognizes and disengages from even faster. It's a spiral that inevitably leads to the narcissist's carefully constructed persona completely falling apart. Throughout this exploration, we'll dissect exactly how this destruction unfolds. Not because Sigmas are trying to destroy anyone, but because their very nature exposes what was always fragile to begin with. We'll examine the 7 critical ways that Sigma males inadvertently dismantle covert narcissists, from refusing to play the validation game to maintaining boundaries that feel like rejection to someone addicted to control. Understanding this dynamic isn't about superiority or revenge. It's about recognizing patterns that drain your energy and learning why certain personality types find your independence so threatening. Because when you understand why covert narcissists can't survive in your orbit, you'll also understand the immense power of living authentically in a world designed to make you dependent on others' opinions. If you're ready to understand the psychological warfare that happens when authenticity meets manipulation, when independence confronts control, when someone who needs nothing faces someone who needs everything, then you're in the right place. This channel exists to decode the Sigma mindset and show you how to leverage your natural traits in a world that constantly tries to box you into hierarchies you never agreed to join. Hit that subscribe button now, because we're about to reveal exactly how your independence becomes someone else's nightmare. Not because you're trying to hurt anyone, but because some personalities simply cannot survive without feeding off others. And you refuse to be food. Let's destroy some illusions. 2. The Sigma's immunity to guilt, manipulation. The covert narcissist's most powerful weapon is guilt. They've perfected making others feel responsible for their emotional state. They make you feel guilty for succeeding, for having boundaries, for living your life without centering them in every decision. Then they try it on a Sigma male, and nothing happens. The guilt simply doesn't land. The covert narcissist deploys their usual tactics: heavy sighs, passive-aggressive comments, the "I'm fine," followed by obvious disappointment. These tactics work because most people prioritize others' feelings over their own boundaries. But Sigmas operate differently. You understand you're not responsible for managing other people's emotions. When the covert narcissist says, "I guess I'll just handle this alone like I always do," most people rush to reassure them. The Sigma's response? Okay, sounds good. No guilt. No anxiety. This response devastates the covert narcissist because it exposes the manipulation. They're not asking for help. They're demanding emotional labor disguised as vulnerability. When you don't provide that labor, their entire strategy collapses. Your immunity stems from strong internal boundaries. You know the difference between legitimate responsibility and manipulated obligation. Someone's disappointment in your boundaries is their problem, not your emergency. The covert narcissist escalates when guilt doesn't work, and escalation exposes them. Your refusal to feel guilty becomes a mirror reflecting their behavior. You're not actively exposing them. Your existence and consistent boundaries do all the work. 3. Strategic silence that drives them insane. Covert. Narcissists need reactions. They feed on emotional responses: anger, sadness, frustration, even joy. Every reaction confirms their importance, validates their existence, and gives them material to work with. Silence, however, gives them nothing. The Sigma male's natural tendency toward strategic silence is psychological torture for the covert narcissist. You don't engage with obvious bait. You don't defend yourself against baseless accusations. You don't explain your choices to people who've already decided to misunderstand you. When the covert narcissist sends a passive-aggressive text, most people immediately respond with explanations or apologies. The Sigma? You read it, understand the manipulation, and simply don't reply. Hours pass, days pass. The silence screams louder than any words could. This silence isn't petty or vindictive, it's strategic. You recognize that engaging with manipulation validates it. By refusing to participate, you deny them the attention they desperately crave. You're not ignoring them out of spite. You're protecting your energy from pointless drama. The covert narcissist cannot handle this. They send follow-up messages. They create new situations demanding responses. They might even accuse you of being cold or distant. Each escalation reveals their desperation more clearly. Your silence forces them to show their hand. They have to become more obvious, more dramatic, more overtly manipulative. And the more obvious they become, the more people around them start noticing the pattern. What destroys them isn't that you're silent, it's that you're unbothered. You're not seething quietly or plotting revenge. You've genuinely moved on, and they can feel it. That indifference is the ultimate rejection for someone whose entire identity depends on being the center of attention. 4. Emotional independence that invalidates their control. The covert narcissist's entire strategy relies on creating emotional dependency. They position themselves as the source of validation, support, or understanding that you supposedly can't live without. They make themselves indispensable by making you feel incomplete without them. This strategy fails spectacularly with Sigma males because you're already emotionally independent. You don't need external validation to know your worth. You don't need someone else's approval to make decisions. You don't need to be in a relationship to feel complete. When the covert narcissist tries to make themselves essential to your happiness, you politely acknowledge them but continue living your life exactly as before. They offer advice you didn't ask for. You thank them and disregard it. They try to position themselves as your emotional support system. You remain self-sufficient. This independence is infuriating to them because it means they have no leverage. They can't threaten to withdraw their support because you never needed it. They can't make you fear losing them because you're comfortable alone. They can't guilt you into staying because you're not emotionally invested in their approval. The covert narcissist might say things like, "After everything I've done for you," or "I'm the only one who really understands you." Most people feel obligated by these statements. The Sigma recognizes them as attempts to create artificial debt and obligation where none exists. Your emotional independence doesn't mean you're incapable of connection. It means you choose connection from strength rather than need. You don't desperately cling to relationships. You participate in them freely and leave them freely when they become toxic. This destroys the covert narcissist because their entire value proposition is based on filling a void. When there's no void to fill, they have no purpose in your life. They become irrelevant through no fault of your own, simply because you don't need what they're selling. 5. Boundary enforcement that feels like rejection. Covert narcissists have boundary issues. They don't respect other people's boundaries, and they react explosively when boundaries are enforced. They view any limit as a personal attack, any no as abandonment, any space as rejection. Sigma males, however, have exceptional boundaries. You know exactly where you end and others begin. You protect your time, energy, and peace with unwavering consistency. When someone crosses a boundary, you enforce it immediately and unapologetically. For the covert narcissist, this boundary enforcement is devastating. They're accustomed to pushing limits gradually, testing what they can get away with, slowly eroding other people's defenses. With you, there's nothing to erode. The boundaries don't move. They might show up unannounced. You don't let them in. They might demand your time on their schedule. You're unavailable. They might try to involve you in their drama. You decline to participate. Every enforcement is calm, clear, and non-negotiable. The covert narcissist interprets these boundaries as personal rejection because they cannot separate their wants from your needs. In their mind, if you truly cared, you'd accommodate them. Your refusal to bend means you must not value them. But you understand something they don't. Boundaries aren't rejection, they're respect. You're respecting yourself enough to maintain your limits and respecting them enough to be honest about what you will and won't tolerate. What destroys them is the consistency. They keep testing, keep pushing, keep trying to find the weak spot where you'll finally give in. But there is no weak spot. Your boundaries remain firm, regardless of their tactics, and eventually they realize they'll never get past them. This realization is crushing for the covert narcissist because it means they can't control you. And if they can't control you, they have no power over you. And if they have no power over you, their entire approach to relationships becomes useless. 6. The mirror effect of authentic living. Perhaps the most devastating thing Sigma males do to covert narcissists is simply living authentically. You don't wear masks, you don't perform for approval, you don't pretend to be something you're not. You exist as yourself, unapologetically and consistently. This authentic living creates a mirror effect. When the covert narcissist is around you, they're forced to see the contrast between genuine authenticity and their own performance. You're not trying to expose them, your mere existence does it automatically. The covert narcissist has spent years crafting a carefully curated image. They've perfected the role of victim, the misunderstood genius, the selfless martyr. They've become so identified with these roles that they've forgotten where the performance ends and reality begins. Then they encounter you, someone who isn't performing at all. You're the same in every context. Your values don't shift based on who's watching. You don't change your personality to fit different audiences. This consistency is jarring to them because it highlights their own inconsistency. They might accuse you of being fake or putting on an act because they genuinely cannot comprehend that someone could be that authentic. In their world, everyone is performing, so your authenticity must be the most elaborate performance of all. But the people around you see the truth. They notice that your words match your actions. They observe that you're reliable, consistent, and genuine. In contrast, the covert narcissist's contradictions become more obvious. Their victim narrative clashes with their controlling behavior. Their claims of selflessness conflict with their constant demands for attention. Your authenticity doesn't directly attack them, but it creates a standard by which others unconsciously measure them, and they fall short every time. This comparison destroys their carefully maintained image without you saying a word against them. The covert narcissist cannot compete with authenticity because they've forgotten how to be authentic themselves. They can only double down on their performance, which makes the contrast even more obvious. They destroy themselves trying to maintain an illusion next to someone who's simply real. 7. The ultimate weapon, walking away without looking back. The final and most devastating way Sigma males destroy covert narcissists is also the simplest. You walk away. Not dramatically, not vengefully, not with grand explanations or final confrontations. You simply recognize the toxicity, decide it's not worth your energy, and leave. This ability to walk away cleanly is something the covert narcissist cannot comprehend. They're used to people who stay despite the toxicity, who keep trying to fix things, who believe the relationship can be salvaged, who are afraid of being alone or being seen as the bad guy for leaving. But you have zero attachment to relationships that drain you. You don't stay out of obligation, fear, or hope that things will change. When you recognize a pattern of manipulation, you simply exit. No drama, no lengthy explanations, no attempts to make them understand. You just go. This departure is psychological devastation for the covert narcissist. They've invested time and energy positioning you as someone who needs them, who values them, who can't survive without them. Your departure proves all of that was fiction. What makes it worse is that you don't look back. You don't check their social media. You don't ask mutual friends about them. You don't respond to their attempts to hoover you back in. You move forward completely unbothered, as if they never existed. This indifference is the ultimate insult to someone whose entire identity revolves around being important to others. The covert narcissist might try to reach out with apologies, crises, or new manipulation tactics. You don't respond. They might spread rumors or play victim to mutual friends. You don't defend yourself. Your life speaks for itself. They might even try to provoke anger or jealousy. You remain completely neutral. Your ability to walk away and stay away exposes the fundamental truth they've been hiding from. They were never as important as they believed. You didn't need them. You weren't completing some part of yourself through them. You were simply tolerating them until you decided not to anymore. This clean break is something most people can't achieve because they're emotionally invested in closure, explanation, or being understood. Sigma males understand that some people will never understand you. Some relationships don't deserve closure, and walking away is sometimes the only explanation needed. The covert narcissist is left with nothing, no supply, no control, no relevance in your life. They cannot manipulate someone who's no longer present. They cannot guilt someone who's not listening. They cannot control someone who's already gone. Your departure destroys their narrative. They told themselves they were the victim, the one who was too good for others, the misunderstood soul. But you leaving, calmly, deliberately, permanently, suggests a different story. Maybe they were the problem all along. And that's a truth the covert narcissist can never accept, which is why your absence destroys them more completely than your presence ever could. The dynamic between Sigma males and covert narcissists isn't just another personality conflict. It's a fundamental clash between two completely opposite approaches to existence. One builds their entire identity on controlling others' perceptions and manipulating emotional responses. The other builds their identity on internal validation and authentic self-direction. When these forces meet, only one can remain intact. What we've explored in this opening reveals a critical truth. The Sigma male doesn't set out to destroy anyone. The destruction happens naturally, inevitably, as a byproduct of living authentically in the presence of someone whose entire existence is performance. Your refusal to be an audience member in their carefully scripted drama doesn't make you cruel. It makes you free. The covert narcissist has spent years developing strategies that work on almost everyone. They know how to make people feel responsible for their happiness, guilty for their pain, and obligated to their needs. These tactics succeed because most people operate within social hierarchies where approval matters, where being liked feels necessary, where conflict feels threatening. But you don't live there. You exist outside those hierarchies. You don't need their approval because you don't need anyone's approval. You don't fear their rejection because you're comfortable being alone. You don't engage with their manipulation because you recognize it instantly and find it fundamentally boring. This is your superpower, and it's precisely what makes you incompatible with personalities built on control and dependency. As we continue through the remaining chapters, you'll see exactly how each aspect of the Sigma personality, from emotional independence to strategic silence to impenetrable boundaries, systematically dismantles the covert narcissist's playbook. You'll learn to recognize these patterns in your own life, understand why certain people react to you with disproportionate hostility, and appreciate the strength that comes from needing nothing from anyone. This journey we're beginning isn't about becoming colder or more isolated. It's about understanding that your independence isn't a flaw that needs fixing. It's a feature that protects you from toxic dynamics others can't even see. The covert narcissist doesn't hate you because you did something wrong. They hate you because you refuse to participate in the only game they know how to play. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt like certain people inexplicably target you with passive-aggressive behavior, guilt trips, or victim narratives that never quite make sense, then you need to subscribe to this channel right now. We're building a community of men who understand that strength doesn't come from dominating others or seeking their approval, but from the quiet confidence of knowing exactly who you are, regardless of who's watching. The world needs more people who can't be manipulated. Subscribe and become one of them. Now let's examine the first way Sigma males destroy covert narcissists: by refusing to play the validation game.